I've been using Apple's iPhone 14 Pro Max for a few months now, and I've gotten pretty familiar with the new features and changes, with some of them really standing out to me this year, while others not so much. And to be completely honest, now that we're getting closer and closer to the release of the iPhone 15 lineup, I've come to the conclusion that most people should skip this phone and wait for the 15 Pro Max. Now, I've got a few reasons for it, and it's not just the massive leaks for the upcoming 15 models, but it's actually a few disappointing letdowns in terms of this one. But before I get into that, I actually want to highlight some of my favorite features and changes of the 14 Pro Max that I've noticed over the past few months. Of course, I love the design with the premium build quality, as well as the thinner bezels on the display this year, and the larger camera bump that looks even more mean and professional. But of course, it basically looks the same as it has for the last 3 years, except for the dynamic island, which I'll get into in just a minute. But in terms of the real world differences that really stood out to me, the first one is that the display no longer randomly dims, which used to annoy the crap out of me. Finally, it's gone. It seems like Apple nailed the efficiency of the display this year so that it no longer gets too hot and has to dim down to cool itself down. Now, it wasn't that big of a problem with last year's model, especially not like it was with the iPhone 12, which had terrible display dimming. But now it's basically flawless, and I can enjoy some gaming or whatever else like wireless charging without any dimming issues anymore. But as a disclaimer, it will still dim outside if you're using it with auto brightness, which allows it to get insanely bright, even brighter than the new S23 Ultra, and then in that case, it could dim. Another positive is that now that we've had a few months of software updates, the battery life is back to being great again, just like it was on the previous 13 Pro Max, so it's nice to know it's fixed. Now, even though it was a bit weird and hard to get used to at first, the always-on display now feels completely normal and natural, just like it feels on the Apple Watch, making it feel more premium, like it's always there for you, along with the added benefit of seeing additional info like a timer running all the time on the display, as well as helping me stop my bad habit of missing notifications when someone texts me and I forget to reply. They're now always there staring at me, so it actually helps a lot. Now, out of everything that's changed, my absolute favorite is the huge upgrades to video recording, especially the 4K cinematic mode that is mind-blowingly good. Now, to match the much better quality, I rigged it up to our partner Small Rig's all-in-one video kit for smartphone creators, which takes your cinematography to another level using the included dual handheld cage for smooth motion and precise control, as well as the on-camera mic and video LED light, giving you everything you need to quickly replace a pro camera, with everything mounted easily to the cage. And it even includes a mini tripod for when you need a static shot, so check it out using the link below. Now, back to what I like about the iPhone 14 Pro Max, the speakers are definitely a lot louder and they sound better, and I really like how the new dynamic island has finally gotten rid of the notch, as well as how it helped the bezels get slimmer and the implementation of the animations as well. However, it's nowhere near as useful as I thought it would be. Yes, it is nice for being able to see timers, navigation, sports scores at all times, as well as giving you a quick shortcut to your music or YouTube app, but other than that, it hasn't really been game-changing like I thought it would be, at least not yet. Now, everyone was super hyped for the emergency SOS via satellite feature, but now it seems like most people have forgotten about it. Since it's only really useful in certain cases, I haven't even tested it out since I basically just forgot about it. But the fact is that it has already helped save lives, and same thing for the crash detection feature, so it's nice to know that they're there to help you in the rare case that you get in a bad accident or get lost. Of course, the Lightning port being limited to USB 2.0 speeds absolutely sucks, as well as not getting Wi-Fi 6E, even though the less expensive M2 iPad Pro and new M2 Mac Mini for $599 get it. But to me, it doesn't really matter since I don't have a Wi-Fi 6E router at home like most people out there. And the whole SIM card removal thing sounds cool going into the future, but I had some issues with service the first couple of days after setting up eSIM, and it's already caused cell service setup issues for 2 of my family members who were forced to go into the Verizon store to get their service set up properly due to technical issues with eSIM, and it's an even bigger problem for those who like to travel and quickly swap out SIM cards. And as far as the actual performance of the new A16 chip, I haven't really noticed any difference at all. Yes, I know the CPU performance gains are there, and it's still more efficient than the Android competition, but the GPU is literally identical to the one we got in the A15 chip last year. And yes, GeekerOne on YouTube confirmed this in a recent video, and because of that, the new Snapdragon chip has taken the lead in terms of raw GPU performance, so hopefully Apple steps it up for the A17 chip, which should be built on TSMC's 3nm tech, and hopefully with a new GPU design. But now, let's finish this review off with the cameras, where we have both good and bad news. The good news is that the new 48 megapixel sensor is great. Now, it sucks that it forces you to shoot in ProRAW, but there's a shortcut you can create to instantly bulk reformat the photos into HEIC to save space right within your Photos app. The quality is incredible, and I've been using it for things that are very important, like group photos for the extra 48 megapixel detail, as well as thumbnail shots of the products I review at home, like the Narwhal robot vacuum. However, my main gripe is that the 48 megapixel full sensor isn't being used in portrait mode, which I basically use almost all the time when taking photos of people, which are the ones I care about the most. So over the past few months, I haven't even really been using the 48 megapixel ProRAW mode that much anyway. So I'd really like Apple to allow regular photos and portrait mode photos to use the 48 megapixel full sensor. But one side bonus and benefit that I've actually been pleasantly surprised by is the new 2x photo mode, which is honestly so good now that it actually uses a full 12 megapixel crop within the 48 megapixel sensor instead of previously using a digital crop of the 12 megapixels on the 13 Pro Max and older models. So this new way of doing 2x is so much better, and I actually use it a lot. And this also means that the 2x portrait mode is finally back, which is so useful because previously you had to use either the 1x or 3x zoom mode for portraits, and sometimes 3x was just too zoomed in and it messed with the quality, so the new 2x mode is great. And speaking of the 3x lens, it's one of the things that has disappointed me this year, since there's now an even more noticeable difference between the main camera and the 3x lens, specifically in terms of added noise when you're not in a very bright environment, so I basically avoid using it a lot of the time. But one positive is the ultra wide camera, which is now quite a bit better than last year, especially in dimmer lighting situations, as well as selfies getting a noticeable improvement this year. And just like I mentioned earlier, my absolute favorite change is the video recording upgrade, specifically the new 4K cinematic mode, which is amazing. Just look at this wake surfing footage with the cinematic mode getting a nice and pleasant background blur with perfect blur edging. It's so good that I've actually used it for family memories, as well as recording B-roll footage of the products we review on YouTube. I'm happy to say that for the first time ever, the iPhone can actually replace a digital camera for shooting B-roll footage, and I've used both the standard 4K and cinematic 4K footage for quite a few of our product review videos, and it passes with excellent quality. Literally no complaints about it in the comments. This means I no longer have to bring a camera from the office back home with me when I need to film B-roll or anything else. The iPhone can finally replace it, and that's probably my favorite thing about the 14 Pro Max. But to be honest, if you don't really care that much about the subtle improvements I noticed and enjoyed, then I'd say that the 14 Pro Max is probably the phone that you should be skipping, especially since the new 15 Pro Max is coming in around half a year, and it's gonna have a ton of changes like I discussed in my recent iPhone 15 leaks video. But to keep it short, the 15 Pro Max will basically fix most of my gripes with the current model, especially if they allow the 48 megapixel sensor to work in more modes. So because of that, I would recommend that you wait for the 15 Pro Max and just skip this one. Hopefully you enjoyed this long-term review of the 14 Pro Max, and if you did, click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one, and definitely check out that iPhone 15 leaks video right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.